Thanks very much, Martin. Um, so let me ask a question. What's in a name? Project management, the management of projects. Grammatically the same thing, but one sounds like a profession and one an approach. So let me tell you a story, and this is a personal story from some time ago. I've been around big project environments since I entered the nuclear industry 35 years ago. And when I joined Rolls-Royce Submarines in 1985, they had been extremely successful in delivering some of the most complex major projects in the UK, such as the new submarine reactor test facility at Dounreay. However, by name, there was not a project manager in sight. These projects were led by a very senior engineer called the project engineer, someone who reported directly to the board and who was an expert in submarine reactors. There were 6 of them, all men of course, this was the 80s. And around the same time, Martin Barnes, who to my mind is a real hero of the project management story, started to deliver his course on the management of projects, where for the first time he pulled together cost control, schedule control and scope control into a single program. The iron triangle was born. This approach was codified, and of course we know it now as the APM body of knowledge, and it became known as project management, and project managers were born. The project engineers at Rolls-Royce thought that engineer was a more lowly title than manager, and started to call themselves project managers. This was an uncontrolled change, and it became aspirational because project management was codified, and you could learn it and become a qualified project manager. Perhaps without the inconvenience of 30 years technical knowledge and experience, that was the qualification required to become a project engineer. When I became head of the project management profession at Rolls-Royce Submarines, I had a function in excess of 300 people. There were 700 engineers. Project management had become a profession and an end in itself. We've started to understand these roles now, but it seems to me that we're going through another evolution of the profession, and again, perhaps an uncontrolled evolution, this time driven by a 4th industrial revolution, or Industry 4.0, if you prefer. We need to think very carefully about how we manage this change to ensure we don't destabilise the projects, and that we build teams that have all the competencies they require to manage a very different type of project, where many of the traditional activities are digitalised and automated. We also need to recognise the different objectives of modern projects, where the ultimate goal isn't the only objective, but the way of working is in itself a key objective. Modern projects have to ensure the well-being of its people, embrace diversity, consume resources sustainably, and deliver social benefits. We need to ensure the transformation in our ways of working delivers these benefits as well as the traditional iron triangle. The question we ask here is similar to the question Rolls-Royce faced 30 years ago. What competencies do our people need to operate effectively in this new environment? So when people think of the 4th industrial revolution, many people think about digital tools, and we'll touch on this. Digital solutions automate processes, and these processes need to be designed for digitalisation. It's no good attempting to automate inefficient processes. All you will do is generate more waste, but faster, leading to less insight and more confusion. So we need to be able to design bespoke processes which can be effectively enabled by digital tools. When processes are optimised, one of the key benefits of using digital solutions for managing complex projects is the improvement in collaboration and the speed of decision making between people, teams and organisations. In an optimised 4th industrial revolution project, you might find small, empowered, multidisciplinary teams working in a fast, exciting, agile way. This is very different from a traditional major project environment. And it implies that the project leaders and project management practitioners need to develop different skills from those they might have grown up with or been educated in. In this talk, we'll address the question, what competencies does the project manager need to lead a project in this environment? We'll do this by first of all discussing the fourth industrial revolution, putting it in context, and introducing the concept of business agility. Then we'll examine what this means for projects and look at some examples of success where fourth industrial revolution approaches have been used to deliver impressive project outcomes. Next, we'll address the theme of this presentation. What does this mean for the people and what competencies do they need to be successful? Finally, we'll bring it all together and speculate about future options. So, Martin's introduced Eleni and myself, and we've been collaborating on this for probably around 2 years now. Our team also includes Ilias Christalis, who's an assistant professor in enterprise management at UCL, where he researches practices to increase the performance of organisations, and also Professor of Project Management Giorgio Locatelli from Leeds, where he researches project management in complex infrastructure and mega projects. Collectively, we want to understand why mega projects stubbornly refuse to show significant signs of performance improvement despite the major step forward in digital tools which have transformed other areas of commerce. So, we'd like to make it interactive, and we're keen to get your ideas and thoughts on this topic. So let's start as we mean to go on. We'd like to know how you feel about the wave of technology that has washed ashore over the last few years. Do you feel on top of it? Able to implement it in the most efficient way? Now, at the side of the screen, there are a series of answers to a specific question we would like you to answer. So hopefully you can see it now, and the technology is working for us. So please select an answer now. So the question is, do you feel adequately skilled and capable to work in complex projects leveraging Industry 4.0 technologies? 3 options: yes, no, or other. And you can explain in the chat if you want to describe what you mean by other. Okay, so let's vote now. So hopefully you're able to do that. There is a bit of a delay on the system, so you'll be clicking away and I'll see it shortly. But we're very interested in particularly the events of the last 6 months and the fact that we've all embraced technology in a way perhaps we never realised before. That in itself puts into stark contrast what we might have been able to do 6 months ago but weren't. So how much more is there that we're embracing or not? So have we got a result? I'm not actually seeing any answers on the screen at the moment. So maybe we'll come back to that. Maybe we'll save that result for later, and we can go back and reflect on that more towards the end of the presentation. Well, I really would like to know the answer. So hopefully we'll get that and we'll come back to it. Okay.
Sorry to interrupt, David. Would you like me to read the answer to you?
Yes, that would be great, Rob. Thank you.
Yeah. So we have 37% of people saying yes, 53% saying no, and 9% saying other, with no explanations shared at the moment.
Right. Okay. Well, that is interesting, and perhaps not what I was expecting. I'm not sure we set ourselves a particular expectation for it, but you could take the view that the people who are on this portal are probably reasonably familiar with the sort of modern technologies we're using anyway. So that is quite quite an interesting answer. That I think 37% you said were confident in those technologies. Okay, well, let's reflect on that perhaps later. For now, let's move on with the presentation. And at this stage, I'm going to hand over to Eleni, who's going to take us through some background to the Industrial Revolution.
Thank you, David. Thanks, Martin, also for the introduction, and good morning to you all. I'm very concerned from the answer. So 37% of you only feel that you are capable and skilled to work in complex projects leveraging Industry 4.0 technologies. So in this section, for the next 7 to 10 minutes, I will be discussing more about the fourth industrial revolution and what this means. So we know, and especially now because of the COVID-19 situation, that we end up doing a lot more digital things that we were doing before. And we know also that the world is being shaped by all these new conditions, but this is also following existing changes and evolution at an industry level. So if we could move to the next slide. Industrial revolution, essentially, it's a term which explains how industries are changing and evolving. And typically these changes, they take place because of new ways of production. So, for example, when we were discussing about the first industrial revolution, this came around the 1800s, and it had to do with new power sources that could power the production. It had to do with water and steam power that was used essentially to create new mechanical production facilities. And soon after that, around before the 1900s, we had the second industrial revolution, which was really powered by electricity. It was powered by the opportunities from electricity to control production. And later on, we had the third industrial revolution, which had to do with automation. It had to do with creating new systems, new information technologies to automate production lines. And there were a lot of innovations, especially in delivery methods, around that time of the third industrial revolution. It had to do with going from a very top-down and structured approach of managing projects to more iterative ways of managing projects. So we had also the emergence of the Toyota production system. We had also the Six Sigma principles, which came from advancements in the US, especially in Motorola. And this also led us to the fourth industrial revolution that we are experiencing now. So whenever you hear fourth industrial revolution, I urge you to combine the two words cyber-physical. So bringing digital technology together with physical production. There are many technologies which are governing the fourth industrial revolution. It has to do, for example, with Internet of Things, essentially having actuators and sensors that can bring real-time information from the physical production to analysis, with cloud technology and the opportunities of other digital technologies that all together they're combined to help us manage complex production tasks. And the next slide. So, and very interesting concepts, especially with regards to all this fourth industrial revolution and the transformation that takes place across many, many different sectors. We can find the concept of a digital disruption. Disruption, essentially, it's a concept that comes from innovation. And it implies that there could be moments that, regardless of what the company may do, they might be disrupted by new entrants in the market who can offer more simple solutions to complicated problems. Now, research also has shown that there is a digital vortex, essentially, which is which is impacting different sectors in many different ways. So if you look at the diagram that we have on the right-hand side of the slide, you see at the center, we have media and entertainment sectors. So these are sectors like newspapers, for example, if you still use newspapers, that have been very much impacted by digital technologies, and they have seen digital disruption more than other sectors. Who remembers Blockbuster also, and what happened in the film industry? And then if you look at other sectors around this center of the vortex, such as retail, we all know that e-commerce is starting to become more and more advanced, more and more sophisticated, more easy to access, and these sectors have been impacted. However, if we also look at the four orange boxes are the outside side of this digital vortex. You will see sectors such as transportation and logistics, real estate, healthcare, and energy and utilities. These are traditional sectors which are delivered and are organized through mega projects, through projects that are extremely complex. Think about horizontal infrastructures and bridges and roads to nuclear plants. These are all industries which are organized in a project-based way. These are all industries that some of us might be involved, and these are also being influenced by this digital vortex more and more. Can we move to the next slide, please? Therefore, the dynamics of the digital vortex, essentially, they require the firms, the businesses to change and to become more agile in terms of business. So we have the concept of business agility that can help these firms to not only change, but to also being able to adapt frequently. There are also many influential scholars who are saying that digital transformation is not about just transforming, but also about being able to continuously adapt to the changing situations. Now, looking closer to the concept of digital business agility, we can understand that it is made up of three main components. First of all, it has to do with hyper-awareness. It has to do with the ability of a company to detect, monitor the changes around their business environment and be aware of the institutional setting and how the industry is evolving. Next, this hyper-awareness fits into informed decision-making. So businesses should be able to make the best decisions in any given situation, especially when we have all these continuously transforming environments. And finally, because of this informed decision-making, companies should be able to fast execute new strategies and new plans quickly and effectively in order to address the digital transformation and not being disrupted by this digital vortex that we discussed in the previous slide. Maybe we can move on to the next slide. So the world is changing and it's very different now, and we recognize also that people who are either driven from personal desires, they are also changing things in ways that we cannot predict. Think about the example from the first and the second industrial revolution about steam power, about electricity as the main innovation. And also think about the innovations that are around us now, about the cyber-physical systems and about Internet of Things, about cloud-based technology, and so forth. So in this slide, you can see at the left-hand side, you can see the old key thinkers of the previous industrial revolutions who were talking a lot about predictability, certainty, and repeatability. They were people like Taylor, Gantt. They were really concerned about how they could tame, how they could manage, standardize, and control the production. However, if you look at the right-hand side of the diagram, we see people like Kahneman, like Deming, Elon Musk, who are talking about randomness, optimism, and fallacy. These people are recognizing that we have to move away from the very rigid ways of organizing production. And they also recognize that people may have their own biases, they might be operating using heuristics in their decision making, and that they are also continuously trying to improve and to collaborate and to embrace the change. Can we move to the next slide, please?
Okay, that's great. Thanks, Eleni. So let's move on and ask the question about what does this mean for projects? So this different environment, this different world that we live in, and it means that we can no longer manage projects using techniques that are over a century old. The world Eleni has described is very different from even the project management environment I remember when I first entered the industry. Agile businesses, employing the concept of business agility, need agile projects. The skills that the project team need to deliver this are quite different from traditional skills. So let's look at this in more detail. So recent research, particularly that conducted by Brand, identifies that there are three key concepts that are required to embrace digital business agility. And recent experience in the USA and the UK suggests these same concepts enable successful digital innovation in a mega project environment. So these concepts, and you can see them here, are design thinking, which is an approach that keeps the user at the core of all decision making. It's an approach that balances desirability, technology, and economics to ensure the outcome has a high intrinsic value for all the stakeholders. Lean Startup. This is an iterative, experimental approach to designing a solution, which meets the user's needs fully by testing options in a digital, interactive environment. Each experiment uses a build, measure, learn cycle that you can see here to test the value of the current option. And then finally, Agile at Scale, which is a way of allowing a concept or the successful result of an experiment to be tested in a bounded and controlled environment, and then releasing it into the wider environment by allowing other users to see the benefits and opt into the new solution or the new way of working. There's a degree of overlap between these concepts, but the basic principle remains that a project needs to create an environment where big, audacious ideas can be generated, but then where they can be tested on a small scale and then iterated across the project. These techniques enable the organisation to embrace the unpredictability of the team members by fostering their creativity. That's design thinking. It allows them to experiment with new ideas, and that's Lean Startup, and then implement the ideas that deliver best value across the project by facilitating change, and that's Agile at Scale. So simplistically, this model can be thought of as a three-stage process, which is shown diagrammatically here. And we call it think big, start small, learn fast. The digital vortex suggests that all sectors will be pulled into the world of digital disruption. And there's evidence that the infrastructure and transport sectors are starting to be disrupted. It's therefore important that mega project organisations should embrace the think big, start small, learn fast model and use it to guide them through this digital transformation. So in order to enable these new approaches, project management processes need to be integrated, lean and agile. Silos need to be broken down so that ideas and successful experiments can flow between boundaries rapidly. They need to be devoid of waste so that the benefits of new solutions can be evaluated and embedded. They need to be agile to enable rapid experiment and change. This enables people to work in small teams, empowered to deliver, with automated oversight, taking rapid decisions and implementing change instantly. Again, this is a very different environment from the classical model, with large co-located integrated project teams working to highly governed processes, tending to work in siloed specialist work units, delivering an agreed scope to fixed budgets and timescales, with no room to innovate or deal with enforced change. So, These modern approaches can be thought of as turning the iron triangle upside down. The classical approach fixes the scope and defines a large set of requirements for every aspect of the project. These requirements are delivered by defining a complex set of activities for the whole project at the start, together with the resources required to deliver the whole project. This results in a cost for the project which is fixed at the beginning, often at a figure less than calculated. The objective of the project team is then to manage risk to minimise change, which is difficult to accommodate and results in reduction of delivered scope, an increase in cost and time, and often all three of those things. So in the agile approach, the cost and time is calculated by making a judgment of how much more than the absolute minimum should be spent to meet the project's quality, safety, security, and environmental requirements. This optimised cost and time is fixed for the project, and scope has gradually evolved beyond the minimum viable product by adding features to the modular design solution until the cost and time is spent, at which point operation can begin, as by definition sufficient cost has been spent to justify the scope as being optimum. In my industry, nuclear industry, we would term that as being a lot. Okay, so let's have a look at some examples. And as we said earlier, the world of megaprojects is starting to see this change happening. And the Saab, Saab has adopted an agile approach and has a fully agile delivery team for the Grip and E fighter. There's more than 100 small teams working in a highly empowered way, delivering flexible scope to short program increments. The entire Saab development team is about the same size as the project management office for the F-35 fighter. And the Saab development program is 2 billion compared to 50 billion for the F-35. 10 years development versus 16. SpaceX is something we're all aware of from recent news events. And the SpaceX program has adopted a hybrid agile model, so not fully agile. And this has been used for the development of all the hardware on the program. So rather than a fully agile approach like Saab, they've used agile elements in a traditional waterfall governance model. In part, this is because it's the first application of agile techniques for many of the companies involved. However, they were able to measure increased speed of product development and incremental reduction of risk as they adapted the project to deal with emerging knowledge. Okay, so back to the interactivity. And we would like to know what you think the key competencies are for project managers in the fourth industrial revolution. So what skills are fundamentally important for project managers to be able to deal with this new environment that we see breaking into the mega project environment? Again, you can see the question here, and you can see there's a range of possible answers with the option of other, again, if you want to suggest other potential competencies. So please select one of those answers, and Rob, when we've got some results, if you could let me know what we're seeing. Okay, so please vote now.
Thank you, David. I'll read as the polls come in. So digital literacy is 45% at the minute, 18% for project management skills, 4% for agility, 9% for business acumen, 4% for software skills, 0% for STEM, 9% for other, but they are changing as we speak, so we'll give it a little bit longer for some to come in. But it would appear that 50% of those that are engaging with us are saying the digital literacy, followed by the project management skills, and then agility, with a few percentage for the others.
Okay. Really interesting. What's the percentage for agility again, Rob?
Yeah, so agility is currently on 13%.
Okay.
1 3.
So I think what we're seeing is a trend towards, it's about digital. It's about using it in a project management process environment. The agility question is a really interesting one, and perhaps something we'll go on to look at in a bit more detail. Have we got a final set of results, Rob, or is it the same as before?
Yeah, no, certainly. So 51% for digital, 20% for project management skills, 13% for agility, 3% for business acumen, 1% for software skills, 3% for STEM, and 5% for other. And no additional comments linked to other.
Great. Thanks, everybody. I've certainly got a view on that. I'm sure I'll hand over to you to talk about the new competencies.
Yeah, thanks, David. Exciting results in the poll, and we purposefully created this poll, and we had some of these concepts overlapping. So in the next session, I want to discuss and dive deeper into some of these concepts, which are requirements for the fourth industrial revolution. And these are all new skills that are meant to complement the traditional project management skills that many of us in this community of APM have. Can we move to the next slide, please? So we have identified 5 main competencies for the fourth industrial revolution and working in, especially in projects. First of all, we have identified business-to-business relationships, thinking, digital, lean innovation, and agile. So we will look at these different concepts in greater detail from the next slide. First of all, business-to-business relationships. Research has identified 7 main dimensions of business-to-business relationships. So all the projects, they're essentially, especially in our domain and in mega projects where both David and I were looking at, they're very inter-organizational projects. So they have to do with many, many different disciplines working together to meet a common goal. So in all these projects, it's very important to be able to make partner selection, to essentially being able to choose who you work with and who you work for. So choose your partners, but also being able to choose the client that would have alignment, cultural alignment, but also the best package that you can get to deliver the projects. At the same time, the nature of the contract is really important because the impact of the contract has an influence on the relation and vice versa. So relations and contract, although relations are more informal and contracts are more formal mechanisms, they are mutually interdependent. So one needs the other. At the same time, understanding each other, understanding the expectations of the partners, of the clients, and the perceptions of these relationships among them, they're very important for business-to-business relationships. At the same time, apart from the business-to-business relationships at a more high level, we have also the interpersonal level, the interpersonal relationships. And these are extremely important in supply chains and in projects that are very localized. So we know that we developed also one-to-one relationships with the people that we are doing business with. Also the way of working, so the relationships and the cultural alignment at an organizational level, they're really important so as to be able to work with partners and clients. Also dealing with problems. How do firms deal with problems, overcome complexities? How do they learn? How do they strengthen their relationships how do they strengthen their relationships and avoid having a blame culture throughout in order to improve their businesses and their projects? And finally, performance management. Although some people believe that some of these dimensions that I just mentioned, they're not very easy to capture, all of them, they can be measurable. All of these dimensions, they can be essentially with the use of proxies. We can measure them and we can have benchmarking of our business-to-business relationships. Can we move to the next slide to see the next competence? Systems thinking, another key competence for Industry 4.0, and especially in complex project management. So systems thinking is a principle that started from the first industrial revolutions, and the focus is on essentially understanding that the system is more than the sum of its parts, and that it needs to create the requirement. It's a process that helps us create the requirements and guide the decision and the implementation processes. Systems thinking also integrates technical and project delivery processes, and it's a good framework that can enable agile techniques, but also lean project delivery. A key challenge that we have in projects, for example, is the misalignment between the product breakdown structure and the work breakdown structure. Therefore, it's very important to apply principles such as systems thinking in order to understand how the different components of the cost, of the product, of the work, and of the time allocated to these work packages can be aligned and optimized to deliver these complex projects. If we move to the next slide, please. Third, and also a very important concept which is throughout in our presentation today, digital is a key competence for the fourth industrial revolution. And digital, it's not only software. Digital, it's not only being good with computers. It's not only about being able to use data or use the web or use specific solutions. Digital also has to do with integrating different solutions and essentially mending the broken links between different software packages, between different data sets, and essentially ensuring that in any given project we can get the best information from the different packages and the different data sources that different interorganizational companies are using to deliver the project. So we have these different packages, solutions, but we also have a common data lake that can be in different formats. So it's very important for the leaders and the digital leaders, especially in complex projects in the fourth industrial revolution, to be able to create a process which could be customized and could be bespoke for every different project, depending on the different supply chain partners involved and depending on the complexity of the project and the packages used in that project. So it's very important to create a bespoke process that can share all this common data, but at the same time being able to create a seamless flow of information, what we call the digital thread, to connect production from the front end of project to design through to execution and finally to handover. So it's very important for the digital leaders to be able to select the right tools and also being able to integrate the data. Can we move to the next competence, please? Lean thinking is also a key competence for Industry 4.0 because Lean essentially has come to us has emerged from these industrial revolution processes that we discussed before. So around the third industrial revolution, people were trying to create the best way to manage the production. And this gave us the concept of lean thinking, which partially comes from the Toyota production system, which was originated in Japan, and also the lean, the Six Sigma principles, which were originated in the US and companies such as Motorola. So lean is very much focused on eliminating waste. So whenever you hear lean, this has to do with reducing waste, getting rid of the waste. However, in the process of getting rid of the waste in our day-to-day job, for example, you can see in the diagram on the right-hand side, the gray part of the diagram. So in the process of reducing the waste in your day-to-day job, the people are essentially implementing a lot of processes that could be rudimentary, could be very basic and very iterative and very repeated in order to eliminate this waste. However, lean has also to do with the empowerment of people. This comes from the principle of Jitoka. which comes from the Toyota production system, which essentially says that, yes, we need to eliminate waste, we need to make the process lean, but also we need to make this with a human touch. So whenever you hear the term lean, think about eliminating waste, but also Jidoka, which means with a human touch, empowering the project team. All of these skills that we are discussing in this session, you can identify that they have to do, yes, with technical or hard skills, but also with more soft skills or soft competencies. If we move to the next competence, please. And the final key competence for project management in the fourth industrial revolution is agile. So we discussed a bit about agile before in the context of digital business agility. Agile is a concept which is based on creating a minimal viable product, which is good enough, and then allow the flexibility to be able to essentially meet all the different demands in the process of the project. So we discussed also before in the examples that David showed us about hybrid ways, which are essentially more pragmatic ways to implement a lean an agile approach, because a completely agile approach might not ever be possible in very complex projects. So we need to create a combination of agile and traditional ways, which are called hybrid ways of delivering projects. In terms of that, having a minimal viable product means that it can increasingly be improved and features can be added over the course of the delivery of the project. And then operation can start, and some of the items might not have been designed yet. So this is a very iterative and real-time process. If we move to the next slide, please. So at this point, we would like to ask you another question, again, an interactive poll question about what sort of new ideas would you start to explore as a result of this presentation. So I've made the poll visible that you can find on the right-hand side panel of your screen. It's the third icon that you have to click, which says polls. And you can start voting. So I've included the options: business-to-business relationships, systems thinking, digital, lean, innovation, agile, think big, start small, learn fast. Or you can choose other and explain your ideas in the chat. So if you start voting, you can also start viewing other people's answers as well in order to see where the discussion is going.
Perfect, thank you. We're definitely getting some contributions from the audience. So at the minute, Agile and Think Big is currently leading with 23%, closely followed by Digital and Systems Thinking. But I can see it changing constantly. So we'll give it a few more seconds to see what's going on. I'll also just apologise. Yes, the poll was set up just to allow one answer rather than multiple answers. Some people have commented that they'd like to answer more than one, but I think this gives us a good flavour. So Think Big, Start Small, Lean Fast is currently winning on 32%. But I'll read all of the answers out to you. So it's currently 5% business to business, 15% systems thinking, 16% digital, 3% lean, 23% agile, 30% think big, start small, learn fast, and 3% for other. And the other comment is just people would probably choose a couple.
Great. Yeah, really interesting. Probably not what I would have predicted, perhaps, and really interesting that things like Think Big has come out top, and agility, but maybe not so much with lean. So that's interesting, because actually I think we see lean and agile as a combination. We talk very much about lean agile solutions. But great, really interesting to see that those are areas you'd like to find out more about. So let's just summarise and close. We're experiencing the so-called projectification of society. More and more resources, money, but also people's time and expertise are invested in planning and delivering projects. Projects and mega projects are not new. They've been delivered throughout human history. But we're seeing changes which challenge the traditional way of dealing with them. We can refer to this as the fourth industrial revolution. But firstly, new technologies are emerging which are showing significant benefits for general business operations. They can be applied to projects and mega projects, but there's no evidence that we can find that they are delivering the expected benefit. Secondly, human aspects have much greater prominence in modern business policies. Today's focus on positive human behaviours such as diversity, inclusion, well-being, empowerment, collaboration and innovation are not adequately supported by traditional project management tools and techniques. How do we know this? We've seen the change over the way general business operations are delivered. We haven't seen a parallel change in the way project management processes in the body of knowledge is specified to embed these factors into it. And these tools and techniques which have been codified during earlier industrial revolutions, they can't deal adequately with the fourth industrial revolution. The Taylorism view of workers on which traditional project management techniques are based was to equate them to machines in a simple and repeatable process that resisted change. The reality is that projects and mega projects are increasingly complex and dynamic. The complexity is not just technical, such as the design of a nuclear reactor or a satellite, but also organisational, with multiple stakeholders with different cultures, needs and goals, and many systems that need to come together. The fourth industrial revolution is a disruptive element. This disruption can either be positive, saving money or improving working conditions, or negative, generating a further layer of complexity. Different electronic solutions that don't fully interact, cyber and security threats, many potential ways in which they can realise themselves as negative factors. Evidence is emerging that the key concepts that need to be adopted to deal effectively with the opportunities presented by these new technologies and a creatively liberated workforce are design thinking, lean startup and agile at scale. Building on this, we've introduced the paradigm think big, start small, learn fast. There's a way to develop a culture which can release the positive benefits of fourth industrial revolution systems in planning projects and delivering mega projects. To embrace this paradigm, we believe 5 competencies are essential, and they're not generally part of a project professional's training. So these are the creation and development of positive business-to-business relationships, understanding systems engineering to integrate project and engineering systems, awareness of the architecture of the fourth industrial revolution digital tools, lean knowledge and competence, and understanding agile and hybrid models. These competences are not just for the project leader, but need to be disseminated and cultivated across the project team. They're essential in building fourth industrial revolution solutions successfully into mega projects. And success should no longer be measured as meeting requirements within some arbitrary budget and schedule. Success in the fourth industrial revolution is to deliver mega projects that provide social value to its stakeholders while empowering the people that deliver it. So the project must focus on value, not output, collaboration between expert practitioners able to deliver their full contribution and not limited by restrictive contracts. Development of bespoke processes optimised for the specific project, not boilerplate approaches derived from generic bodies of knowledge. Selection of systems chosen for their ability to integrate, and not their feature list or their omnipresence. And finally, and perhaps most importantly, developing a culture where people are released from the fear of failure and who feel able to contribute their innovative ideas in a truly enabling environment. So in a world where constant disruption is the norm, the project management community's response has to be to seek knowledge and new skills to help it to cope and take advantage of this disruption. The 5 competencies we've identified facilitate this and help ensure that mega projects are ready for the 4th industrial revolution and any other global disruption from whatever source. Thank you.